RK's Guyana Free Media presents for human development and national development this message.
Dearest beloved divine friends and families around the world, this is elections update 27. The madness that prevails, the election fiasco that destroys our country, our humanity, and divides our people. A shame and a disgrace to behold. And for me saying these things, some people who are mostly sadly pro-governmental think that I shouldn't say these things, even though these things are happening, that I should stay quiet and shut up and let it be, because they love for race or political preference whatever government that they want in power. I say, who is blessed and divine by the Creator to take power must take power. Otherwise, if they take power through thievery or skullduggery, manipulation and dishonesty, that the nation becomes cursed, as we saw in the late 60s, the 70s, and a large part of the 80s. The nation will always suffer if the people who pronounce the true will of God, and the will of God is the will of the people, and the will of the people is the will of God. Before I move further, I wish to warn everyone to walk with their sanitizers, please, their face masks. COVID-19 is dreadful and deadly, and I don't really think we have really seen what's going to happen in Guyana. I hope nothing else happens. I hope we have no sicknesses. I hope we have no destruction. I hope we have no pain. I hope we don't have manipulation and trickery and enriching themselves, some of those who are in government, using COVID virus or coronavirus to enrich themselves and their friends by buying this property and manipulating that property and spending the government money out, and then eventually making or banking millions upon millions and maybe billions of US dollars, wealth, lands and properties, as we've seen and amazed that has happened to some people in business and in politics from 2015 to now. But not to say that some of that did not happen in the 20 years. But I'm of the opinion, from 2015 to now, by far surpass any corruption that might have happened in the 23 years previous to 2015. And I do not think His Excellency, caretaker, acting President David Arthur Granger is corrupt, but his high, powerful official or officials, they are in the realm of deceit and corruption, as is evident. And I think if another term comes out, and I mean very vociferous in saying this, there might be nothing left for our children and our children's children, but the wealth of the oil will be used to pull wool over our eyes and confuse us as they enrich themselves with all of the wealth for themselves, their families, their groups, and putting it into other people's names here and there. Like some of them are buying properties in Florida and around North America in their children's names, in their family names, etc., etc. The topic today at this juncture is twofold. One I will read to you coming from the Kaicho newspaper, a message from famous former Georgetown Chamber of Commerce head, DEODAT and also a famous legal consultant, and a man of dignity, honor, respect, and a patriot. And this is a message to the world today. My part 2 of this recording will be remove officials with partisan behavior from recount by the Organization of American States. And before I do that, I'll give you a little personal take on that. International sanctions could lead to economic decay, death of business in 6 months. Kaicho News, 16th April 2020. DEODAT INDAR warns. If the Guyana Elections Commission fails to ensure the results of March 2nd general and regional elections are credible, then the sanctions that would follow from international counterparts would be devastating to Guyana's economy. This is according to the former head of the Guyana Chamber of Commerce, DEODAT INDAR. In his most recent analysis on this issue, INDAR examined the economic implications that would ensue should Guyana find itself under undemocratic rule. INDAR noted that the sanctions would take a variety of forms. Expounding in this regard, INDAR said that the sanctions could be placed on the President and his entire cabinet, their families, and in some cases, close associates. He said too that sanctions would befall the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission, all political appointees and their families, members of the Guyana Police Force, directly involved and complicit in enforcing the installation of an illegal government. Members of the army who were involved, members of the judiciary who were also complicit, and all other politically affiliated persons contributing to or enabling the establishment of an illegal government. Along with the foregoing, INDAR was keen to note that Guyana under an illegal government will become a pariah state, subject as a country to expulsion from the international and regional community. And I will say, my point, communities. INDAR said that such exclusion would see Guyana being excluded from access and finance from the international funding agencies such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, IADB, and other international banks. The businessmen continue, needless to say, that this would drastically retard national development and severely damage the way of life of the Guyanese people. In addition to this, INDAR said that sanctions would further manifest itself with global banks being issued instructions from the U.S. Treasury Department's enforcement arm, the Office of the Foreign Asset Control, OFAC, to bar financial transactions from being routed through the USA. He said that other countries such as Canada, the United Kingdom, and the European Union member states would put similar arrangements in place to bar wire transfers from being routed through their registered banks and to jurisdictions which they control. My friends and family, a little quick comment on that. It means those of us who are receiving monies from our families overseas and it's coming to Guyana, it will stop. And those of us who are doing businesses and we are sending monies out of Guyana, though legitimate, it will stop. These are the effects of sanctions on a nation. INDAR also said that the isolation of Guyana would essentially result in the suffocation of businesses. In this regard, he said that payments for imports would not be able to be completed, thereby starving Guyana of essential materials for plant and machinery, branded goods, parts for manufacturers and retailers, and all other forms of imported goods. Guyana gold on the world market can be frozen, the former GCCC had said, and the trading of precious metals, including diamonds and minerals, would also be affected. while noting that remittances from countries such as USA, Canada, UK and EU are expected to be prohibited. As I just said, we will not be able, families, to get monies, my comment, from their friends and families overseas. Faced with these sanctions and international isolation, INDAR also cautioned that Guyana could be forced to use up the little reserves left at the central bank, which is approximately 2.5 months of import cover based on the reserve level. Thereafter, INDAR said that Guyana will find itself bereft of the kind of resources and its levels needed to sustain businesses and their operations. INDAR said businesses in Guyana may be expected to die out within 6 months to 1 year. With this kind of a shortage of goods and currency are imposed on an economy, it results in unmanageable inflation escalating further and deeper into hyperinflation, driving the poor to the brink of mass starvation. For example, my points now: Equatorial Guinea and Venezuela, close at hand, quick to think about. Driving the poor to the brink, and like I said, driving the poor to the brink of mass starvation. He added a chain reaction that pushes mass migration out of Guyana, thereby weakening local demand and result in the ultimate destruction of the entire fabric of the Guyanese society. Friends and families, we would have a labor drain, we would have a brain drain, we would have industry drain, we would have money drain, hard currency being smuggled out of Guyana, cost it what it will, cost it whatever it might be. For many Guyanese who have savings and property, INDAR was keen to point out that savings in Guyanese dollars will evaporate in its value, as well as purchasing power, due to the inflationary effects as seen in Venezuela and Zimbabwe. He said too that property value will sink as a result, as no new investment would be viable. Taking the foregoing into consideration, among other factors, the former GCCI president said it is quite clear that there is no scenario where a positive can come about from undemocratic rule. That's the message from DEODAT INDAR. But I want to mention also, some people are saying the powerhouses who are getting the sap and the wealth, who are sending our money out of the country, who are investing in housing schemes in the East Coast and in Ogle and other areas through their friends, and using all kinds of things to invest in and get shares of powerhouses of politics, some who were soldiers and military people, not all. Friends and families, let us pray for a better Guyana. Friends and families of all races, particularly the Africans and the Indians, we must not allow politics to divide us. That love for a party would cause you to dislike members of another who love another party. We must always be one human family, one people, one Guyanese, one people, one nation, one destiny. Dearest, beloved, divine friends and families around the world, on this topic that I wish to speak on, remove officials with partisan behavior from recount, Organization of American States, and there's some others as well. And we know there are serious partisan, corrupted officials at GCOM. Before I read the topic at hand there, making the second in this video, friends and families around the world, I wish to advise you on this, the RKS Guyana Free Media, that many people are disagreeing with that. Some with a name around, but which is now tinged and pinged in shame and disgrace. That we should not allow those people to dictate to us. We should come as an observer, be a passive observer, watch and send our reports. No. There are constitutional powers granted to observers. They could request counts. They could request SOPs. And they have a right to make a comment. Especially for those who are upset, especially because there has been skullduggery at GCOM. Till now, your brother, me, Haji Roshan Khan, I have not blamed for this His Excellency the President, the acting caretaker President, as his government came to an end on March 2nd. I've not blamed him. It seems to me a lot of these things are happening there without him knowing. All the skullduggery and the internecine manipulation, trickery and deceit that's taken place is happening underground. Many things he learned from the newspapers. It's a shame and a humiliation to the man. I don't know how the president could take this. With that group of what I call the shadow cabinet, I have had bad experience from some of them. Many people have suffered at their hands. Opportunities, businesses, life, targeting, destruction. No deaths as yet, no assassinations. But when people operate like this, that could be the next thing in line, as we saw in times past during the 70s and the 80s. Joshua Ramsamy is fresh in my head. And others of the then WPA targeted. Some people might move to that realm in desperation and they want power and wealth so badly. My prayers, oh Lord, God, is not for that to happen. So the OAS is saying to remove officials with partisan behavior from the recount Organization of American States. Guyana'S need an elected government and credible count US diplomat. As the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM, is still working out the logistics for conducting a recount of the March 2nd vote, the observation mission of the Organization of American States has joined mountain calls for partisan officials to be removed from the counting process. GECOM Chair retired Justice Claudette Singh. The OAS Elections Observer Mission, EOM, which was in Guyana in March to oversee the election process, has been vocal about the lack of credibility in the declaration of the Region 4 Demerara Mahaica results by controversial returning officer Claremont Mingo. Delay concerns. The chief of the observation mission, former Jamaican Prime Minister Bruce Golding, in a statement on Wednesday expressed concerns that after more than 6 weeks since Guyana'S voted, there was not yet to be an accurate and credible result that would allow a duly elected government to assume office. However, as the Elections Commission prepares to undertake the national recount, the mission is urging GECOM to ensure that the procedures for the recount are transparent and consistent, that the instructions to elections officials conducting the count are unambiguous and based on the provisions of the relevant laws, and that the public is fully informed of the methodology to be used. More particularly, the OAS observers requested, among other things, that GECOM ensures and the officials to be engaged in the recount are selected based on their impartiality, and those who have displayed partisan behavior are excluded. This call by the Foreign Observation Mission comes on the heels of the opposition People's Progressive Party Civic pushing for the removal of Mingo, as well as Chief Elections Officer CEO Keith Lowenfield and his deputy Roxanne Myers from the national recount. In fact, the party's General Secretary Barry Jagdeo last week said, "We are arguing that the compromised staff of GECOM must not be part of the process. So there are about 4 or 5 persons we have identified, and so we would not like these people to be present because they will undermine the recount count as they undermine the process of declaration." And my commentary, and that was done twice. Everyone there saw it, including yours truly. Total fraud. You could read from the body language and the action. And there was one set of people there who were expecting it, one political group, quiet, sweet, soft, clean, just accepting. You can see from the movements and the eye language and the body language, skullduggery and mass theft were at hand. Nevertheless, the OAS EOM further asked the GCOM ensure that the duly authorized representatives of political parties and accredited observers are allowed to see but not handle each ballot. The legal provisions for challenging the determination of ballots are fully respected, and a certainment is made as to whether the number of ballots cast corresponds with the number of persons recorded as having voted, and that the result of the recount for each polling station is compared with the statement of poll signed by the presiding officer. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Meanwhile, addressing the 156-day proposal by Lowenfield for the recount to be conducted, the foreign observer mission noted that this was unacceptable. The proposal by the chief elections officer that would have required 5 months to recount less than 500,000 ballots is unheard of in any democracy and would be unacceptable under any circumstances, it noted. To this end, the mission commended the 7-member Elections Commission for ordering a revised timetable. According to the OAS Observer Mission, it is committed to ensuring that the will of the people prevail and that Guyana's position as an internationally respected democracy is restored and preserved. Several international organizations, including the 35-member OAS and bilateral partners, including Powerhouse United States, have said that any government sworn in based on non-credible results would not be recognized as legitimate, and some have even warned of serious consequences as well as sanctions against Guyana. We are warned about these serious consequences, my commentary, and what it will do to Guyana. I just read you something from DEODAT INDAR earlier in this video, explaining what that gentleman's vision is showing, being a financial consultant and a specialist in finance law and reality. Citizens need credible government. In fact, following the statement by the OAS mission on Wednesday, Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, Michael Kozak, also lamented that Guyana is yet to have a credible elected government. It has been 6 weeks since elections were held in Guyana with no result. The U.S. stands with OAS official in urging GCOM to conduct a recount as soon as possible. Guyanese needs a government elected based on credible count of their votes more now than ever, he tweeted. Meanwhile, the OAS mission in its missive said the political crisis in Guyana was not intractable. It noted that after a peaceful and transparent voting and counting of ballots on March 2nd, all that remained was for the count from each polling station to be accurately tabulated and declared. But there was an abundance of evidence that this was not done in the case of Region 4, which has ultimately led to the decision that all ballots in the Region 10, in the 10 regions, would be recounted. My friends and families, if we have to do that, then we have to. But we have to remember, the trouble started when there were definite manipulation, several court cases to stop and not to proceed with the recount. Why they didn't want to proceed with the recount? The powers that be, the manipulators of names who were taking the matters to court, the GCOM involved. Why do we not complete Region 4 count? Why do they want to do 1 to 10 and start from 1 and finish at 10? I think it's manipulations afoot, trickery, so they can try to get into the box or come up with some kind of internecine trickery and manipulation to damage the votes in the container for Region 4. Finish the count of Region 4, and if we then need to prove the point, then we do an entire recount. Why waste all these monies? Why waste the time of these people from CARICOM who will be here to conduct the count and are recognized by the entire world? Why waste their time? Let us finish Region 4, and if it comes to that, then we decide to go to the rest. But I think skullduggery, manipulation, and mass thievery, GCOM in league with whoever their partners are, and we know now who they are from all the court cases, and who took the last one, who they are. It's very sad, and unfortunately it will appear, and these are all my comments now, that His Excellency President David Arthur Granger does not know much, and he refused to allow himself to be sworn in with a fraudulent count and fraudulent votes that's not proven to be him. So if you got to do the 10 regions, we'll do that, but finish Region 4. Finish Region 4. Why are the acolytes and the satellites and the cabals, first time I'm using that word, I don't like the word, and the cabals of GCOM and their partner don't want to finish Region 4 vote? Finish Region 4 vote, complete it. Start from where you stop. Or start again without Mingo and Lowenfield and the Deputy CEO and a few others, masterminders of a nation to steal. Back to the conclusion of the message from the OAS. The OAS mission noted the current impasse was especially regrettable in light of the global health crisis that requires every government to take decisive actions and to be able to command the confidence of its people in order to mobilize them in thwarting the spread of the coronavirus. Dear friends and families, these readings and part commentaries were done by yours truly, me, Brother Haji Roshan Khan, from the RKU's Guyana Free Media, for your information, for your knowledge, and for your understanding. And I'm not sponsored by anybody, but because I have the ability, the talent, the skill to do this, I do it for love. I do it for goodwill. I do it for law and order. Peace and blessings of God be with you, one and all. Farewell, friends.